And Marco, you really did yourself proud 2 days ago in Munich. In fact, so proud that I almost terminated his employee because they were saying, why can't Trump do this? I do, but I say it differently. But Marco, don't do any better than you did, please. Because if you do, you're out of here. But no, I want my guys to do great. We have smart people.
Yes, President Trump at the Board of Peace gathering in Washington, D.C. this morning. Marco Rubio there. Marco was the Secretary of State. He was laughing off to the side because he delivered such a great speech in Munich, Germany. And President Trump said, you did such a great job. Done any better, I would have had to terminate you. He was kidding. But the idiots will grab that. And speaking of the idiots, I've got some The View. The View. You know, with Karen Johnson. Karen Johnson is, of course, the actual name of the person that calls herself Whoopi Goldberg. She's not Jewish, and she's not happy. So her name is ironic, or ironical if you prefer. Yeah, and it turns out that Whoopi Goldberg's fake name is right there in the Jeffrey Epstein files because she was a Jeffrey Epstein suck-up, as so many Democrats were, because Jeffrey Epstein was a famous Democrat and was a famous Democrat all of his life because he raised money for Democrats and all of that good stuff. And Jeffrey Epstein, and Whoopi Goldberg, just amazing stuff we've got going on here. And USA Today kind of smoothing it over for her. Whoopi Goldberg, not Jewish, not happy, on being mentioned in Epstein files. Quote, I wasn't his girlfriend, end quote. No one suggested you were. Look at you. She was mistaken for that Chinese spy balloon floating over the United States of America when Joe Biden was president. You remember all that stuff? That was crazy. Whoopi Goldberg has addressed, she's addressed it, now it's done, USA Today smoothing it over for her, has addressed her name appearing in the files released by the Department of Justice on Jeffrey Epstein. Well, I thought nothing was released, and the Democrats got millions of documents, and now they're telling other people to go through them and look for Trump's name or something like that. Isn't it great? So Whoopi Goldberg has addressed her name appearing in the Epstein files released by the Department of Justice on Jeffrey Epstein, saying in part, I wasn't his girlfriend. You're nobody's girlfriend. You never have been, but that's all right. During the February 17th episode of The View, the day before yesterday, the EGOT holder, she's an EGOT holder. In her case, that has nothing to do with awards. It's a venereal disease that she has. The EGOT holder says that she's getting dragged over an email correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein and redacted sender mentioning Whoopi Goldberg seeking a private plane. See, Whoopi Goldberg was emailing with Jeffrey Epstein saying, hey, Jeff, hey, it's Whoopster. It's the Whoop. And saying, I'd like to use your Gulfstream jet to fly to Monaco. Maybe you could lay on the Gulfstream jet that you own for me to go to Monaco because this is the world they live in. And Jeffrey Epstein and all the child molestation, that's fine with them. And now she says, I'm just getting dragged into the Jeffrey Ed. No, you've been pounding the table on The View and screaming and yelling, release the Epstein files. And then you release the Epstein file and you find that 98.8% of the names mentioned are known Democrat names, from Bill Clinton to Whoopi Goldberg to the woman that was Barack Obama's White House counsel and then went to Goldman Sachs on Wall Street, because where else would she go? And then she's all over the Epstein files, and she had to resign from Goldman Sachs last week when it was discovered that her name was all over the Jeffrey Epstein files. And the Democrats, should she lose her job for that? I don't know. Was she being accused of something? there's this kind of Nazi thing going on because the Democrats are involved. They like to call it McCarthyism, and they are the McCarthyites in the 21st century. Oh no, people are being persecuted. If that's true, it's entirely because of you people demanding and the names be released. And then remember they put out the picture of Donald Trump with 6 women, and it turns out it was a party at Mar-a-Lago for suntan lotion, and they were working for the company, and they have the leis, Hawaiian leis around their neck. And they said, hey, they're at Mar-a-Lago, and they saw Trump, and it was like 20 years ago before he ever mentioned that he was a Republican or that he was in politics. And, in fact, before that, he was a Democrat, but never mind that. And the 6 women came forward and said, yeah, we were like 22, 23, 24 years old. We weren't underage. We weren't Jeffrey Epstein anything. We were at Mar-a-Lago, and we saw President Trump and said, hey, would you take a picture with us? And he was such a gentleman, and this is what the women said. He was such a gentleman that he agreed to take a photo with us, and they were thrilled that the TV star, New York billionaire, not in politics, took a picture with these 6 young women who are Tropicana models for the Tropicana suntan lotion. And the Democrats in Congress, they got a hold of that photo, which was allegedly in the Epstein files, or it wasn't, and the Democrats put it out and said, see, Trump with women. It's almost like he's heterosexual. And they don't like that because they're all gay. They're all gay. Every Democrat in 2026. It's kind of weird, but there it is. And Whoopi Goldberg, we got the whoopster. Where's Whoopi in this thing here? And let's go to the whoopster because she is like Prince Andrew, who's the prince formerly known as Prince, the royal formerly known as Prince. Now he's going by his family name. He's Andrew Windsor, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Everybody on Fox News this morning was mispronouncing Mountbatten as though they had never heard the name before. It was kind of amazing. But here is Whoopi Goldberg, whose real name is Karen Johnson, talking about her close personal friend, Jeffrey Epstein, the child rapist, serial child rapist and perennial child rapist. The Democrat Party, they're all over it because Epstein was a lifelong Democrat and a Democrat Party backer and booster and funder and all that good stuff. And Whoopi Goldberg emailed Jeffrey Epstein and said, hey, let me use your Gulfstream jet because I want to go to Monaco, where the prince lives and all that stuff. So the redacted sender goes on to detail an event that month in Monaco hosted by White Feather Foundation. I wonder if that's it has to do with high cheekbones and Elizabeth Warren, because it's the White Feather Foundation, an environmental and health conservation group founded by musician Julian Lennon. Julian Lennon, he's just sitting on a pebble, and there he is, Julian Lennon. And they say, hey, yeah, and Whoopster said, I've got to go to Monaco for an environmental gathering of the White Feather Foundation with Julian Lennon and Jeffrey Epstein. I'd like to use your jet, right? And she asked Epstein, would you want to offer the G1? Or maybe it's a GII. It might be the G2, the Gulfstream 2. Everybody, they all speak in shorthand when it comes to private jets because she's Whoopi Goldberg, and she really needs a transport plane with a ramp on the back and a large forklift to get on the airplane. But the Whoopi says, would you want to offer the I guess it's G2, the Gulfstream 2, seemingly reference to one of Jeffrey Epstein's airplanes. And in response, I love this, Jeffrey Epstein responded, no thanks. And he misspelled thanks. He didn't capitalize no, he misspelled thanks. But Jeffrey Epstein, because Whoopi had the temerity, had the gonads to email Jeffrey Epstein and said, let me use your Gulfstream 2 because I want to go see Julian Lennon in Monaco. It's a different life, So a review of the files released by the Department of Justice show Whoopi Goldberg's name appearing in other documents, including news articles mentioning the actress. And why are there news articles in the Epstein files talking about Whoopi Goldberg? The library contains all the files collected for the Department of Justice investigation So not all documents are direct correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein, but the Democrats just pound the table and they say they want everything released. So here is Whoopi Goldberg on her TV show. They pay her millions and millions of dollars to do Democrat Party propaganda and to shepherd serial and perennial child rapist Jeffrey Epstein. And, hey, let me use your Gulfstream jet so I can go hang with Julian Lennon in Monaco.
Now, in the name of transparency.
Transparency.
Can you put up my name is in the files?
No naked pictures.
Yes. And what does it say? It says, Whoopi needs a plane to get to Monaco. John Lennon's charity, it should say Julian Lennon's charity, is paying for it.
Does.
They don't want to charter, so they're looking for private owners. Here's the info.
They don't want to charter.
And they give all the information.
Whoopi.
And they're saying, do you want to offer your G2?
See?
And it looks like they said no thanks.
Yeah.
So in other words, anybody can be on this.
Anybody. Well, this is my point.
Anybody. And see, this is my point. Anybody. Which, you know, when Trump's name is there, it's clear evidence of criminal conduct and of sexual abuse of underage girls, when exactly the opposite has been established again and again and again and again, because the Democrats keep retreading the same thing over and over again. But the whoopster, and see, anybody's name can be in there, just anybody. Well, that's not true, Karen. That's not. You're in there though, and you have been one of the people pounding the table and demanding release. We need the names. All right. Well, one of the names is you, Karen. Whoopi Goldberg on her TV show. ABC pays her millions and millions.
I'm telling you, when I tell you people are trying to turn me into, I wasn't his girlfriend. I wasn't his friend.
You were too old for him.
I was not only too old, but it was at a time, you know, where this is just not. You used to have facts before you said stuff. But
that's not true. You're sitting there on The View. You don't know how to spell the word facts. You don't know what the word facts means. You are not a fact-oriented life form. I'm a fact-oriented life form, a truth-oriented life form. Karen Johnson, even her name is a lie, and she's a ridiculous person. But people are trying to. This is what she has been engaged in for months and months, insinuating, based on thin to no evidence at all, that, for example, Donald Trump, wait till we get to the Ed O'Keefe at CBS News calling President Trump a racist and then demanding that nobody's ever called him a racist. That's fun. But these people, they're just pathological liars. They don't know the difference. Yeah, it used to require facts. What are you talking about? Nobody's reported on it. Everybody's left you alone, although they shouldn't, because you're an Epstein girl now. Right? It's not like being a Bond girl, quite the opposite. But you may remember, speaking of Bond girls, she wasn't a Bond girl. Hanoi Jane Fonda was... Harvey Weinstein was another Democrat that abused underage women for decades, and all the Democrats covered it up for Harvey Weinstein because they're all pigs. He's not just a pig, all pigs. And here's Hanoi Jane. Hanoi Jane, hey, wait a minute. We just found out, that we've known all along, that Harvey Weinstein has been raping young women on the casting couch for 30 years. Hanoi Jane, you've been in Harvey Weinstein movies.
I only met Harvey when I was old. And Harvey goes for young because that's more vulnerable.
And everybody knew that, and everybody was fine with it, including Hanoi Jane for decades and decades. Isn't that amazing? And on The View, they have a woman named Sarah Haynes. I don't know who that is. Michael doesn't know who that is. But they're, hey, Epstein files, Whoopi Goldberg, that's no big deal. It happens all the time.
Yeah, but the thing is, they dropped like 300 names.
Yes.
And it's like flood the zone, because when you're looking, there are people like Marilyn Monroe, who was dead.
Elvis.
Yeah, a lot of people, because a lot of the reasons your name can be mentioned are news articles, third-party emails, contacts. Again, wealthy, famous people often cross in professional and social circles, so that's not the surprising part.
Wealthy, famous people, that's not the surprising part. But that's not applied to Donald Trump. That's applied. They have very generous language for themselves. Wealthy, famous people cross paths. And President Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago and of every place else. He came into contact with Epstein, and Trump contacted the police the moment he heard that Ghislaine was being arrested and Epstein was being arrested, and he called her evil to the police, and this has all been documented. But the Democrats, well, you know, a lot of wealthy and famous people, we cross paths with one another. In Monaco, like with Julian Lennon, when I borrowed Jeffrey Epstein's Gulfstream 2 jet to go to Monaco to hang out with Julian Lennon. Said, notice that none of these people actually earned anything in their lives, but that's the Democrats. So, yeah, and there are a lot of, there were hundreds of names. Isn't that what you've been demanding? And now they're with furrowed brow saying, but none of it means anything. Now that our names are the only names that we're finding.
She was distracted by my fat suit. In her review, you should know that was not a fat suit. That was me. Yeah.
All right, and we've got Democrat Congressman Ted Lieu. Ted Lieu. He's out there, and I want to, because it goes with Whoopi Goldberg and all the idiots that lie about everything every time they begin speaking. I want to get to that. So we got that, and on Capitol Hill. I think there's we've got more Epstein updates because of the former prince in Great Britain, who is no longer a prince, formerly known as Prince. All right, let's grab a telephone call. Michael, let us go to Suni, calling from Wilmington, North Carolina. Suni, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, good morning. It's nice to meet you.
Welcome. Very nice to meet you.
I've lived in this country for 60 years. Mm-hmm. I was a babe when I came. Mm-hmm. But I'm very, very concerned about this SAFE Act because I realize that a lot of Americans feel that showing a driver's license means that you are a citizen. But I had a driver's license for 26 years as a legal resident before I became a citizen. Right. And it's to me, it's something that doesn't seem to be being discussed. I'm much in favor of us being able to show that you are a citizen, but how can they really do that? Because Medicare cards, etc., for ID, if their ID, a lot of those are fraudulent anyway. But the lack of understanding with the driver's license, because for years you could go to Canada with a driver's license because a lot of Americans back then thought that that was as good as a passport.
Right. I tell you what, Suni, we're a commercial radio station, not NPR, so we have to go do a commercial-like thing, but I would like to ask you a couple of questions if you could hang in there for a minute. All right, we have returned, and I'm thankful that Suni has hung in there for us, and I'd like to go back to Suni. So, Suni, thank you for calling in, first of all, and it's very nice meeting you, and thank you for hanging in there.
Not at all.
And you're talking about the SAVE Act and using an ID to vote, and I talk about this a bit, Suni, and I point out that in France, for example, they have election day, and you show up at your polling place and you show your ID. You get a paper ballot. You put it in a ballot box. They're counted that day. They have all the election results, as opposed to now in the United States. The Democrats like to take weeks adding up their congressional ballots and finding lost ballots and things like that. But using an ID, look, they use an ID in South Africa. Nelson Mandela championed voter ID in South Africa. They use a voter ID in Brazil. They use a voter ID in Somalia. And you're saying that long before you became a U.S. citizen, you had a driver's license. And the Democrats, they say, oh, no, you can't. First of all, I talked about this recently, Suni. There are 19 states in the United States of America that give driver's licenses to non-citizens. And 14 of those states, Democrat states, automatically register you to vote when you get a driver's license, knowing that you're not a citizen. So what do you make of that? So you're a very intelligent person. You've been paying attention. And I wonder what you think of all of that.
Well, stupidity, but that sort of goes hand in hand mostly with governments. But I think that there are people, I'm not one of them, that would go and vote with my driver's license. It never occurred to me to go and vote until I actually was a naturalized citizen. And the first time I was so proud, I went in to vote for Ronald Reagan, and they asked me for my driver's license. I had actually taken my new American passport, but they didn't ask me for that. And I said, well, why do you want my driver's license? That's not going to prove that I'm an American. And they said, no, it's fine. That's what we take for ID. And I'm thinking, what a bloody stupid thing to do. It's ripe for cheating. But I think that if you get a driver's license in this country and you are not a citizen, then that driver's license needs to be and look very different from actual citizens. Would be a start. Or what? Well, maybe we should go back to some third countries deals where you use a fingerprint to vote. But until we get that right, we're really not a true democracy.
Right. Right, because you believe that we have created a problem for ourselves on Election Day, and that we open the door for potentially millions of non-citizens to vote on Election Day.
Yes, well, it occurred to me that the 26 years that I did not even think about going in to vote, which I could have done if I was a cheat, but but how many people there are that are doing it now and have done it for decades? It's not that big of a problem not to be straightened out. I mean, it's just a common sense issue. Should it be that hard for anybody born in this country or naturalized be able to to stand in a different line than people who haven't earned that right to vote? It's a privilege, and I'm a very, very proud American. I was so thrilled with the first time I went to vote, and I didn't do it for 26 years because I thought the Queen would execute him. I might never be allowed back. I always thought I would get hit by lightning or something, and so it took me a while. But for me, it was worth the wait, and I hate to see the things that are happening. I'm obviously a conservative. For many years, I was married to Julian Barber, a TV and radio person in Washington, D.C. back in the day. And, and I learned a lot. I was fortunate because he was so involved with the news. And so at a very tender age, I became knowledgeable on these things. And there's so many easy ways to fix problems like this, but you're running, upstream with the Democrats who want to just absolutely, it's in their favor to keep it chaotic and let anybody vote. Right.
Yeah. Well, you've got it all figured out. I'm very glad that you stayed through the commercial break because you've explained it eloquently and beautifully, and you are. I've just been smiling listening to you, and how wonderful. And your first vote was for Ronald Reagan.
Yes, he was the reason I thought that he would be so good for the country, and I hadn't been terribly impressed beforehand. But I thought, no, this man is very well worth me putting in and becoming an American, and it was the best move I've ever made.
That's wonderful.
Emigrating, I came to this country with a blue suitcase in one hand and $75 in the other, on the QE2.
Wow.
So and I did very well. So.
Wow, and I did very well. You're still doing very well. You are wonderful. The blue suitcase and $75 on the Queen Elizabeth on that QE2.
Yes.
That's just wonderful.
In November in rough seas, so it was quite the
the crossing.
It was, yeah.
The Atlantic
and New
crossing.
York was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, it's more of a shock now, I think, but I understand.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yes, no, in fact I haven't been to New York in decades, and I have no plans to go.
Yeah.
I really don't think I'm getting too old to have to step over poop on the streets.
Yeah, and dead people and homeless, mentally ill people, and New Yorkers. We just call them New Yorkers now. But that's wonderful stuff. And since I have you here, there's big news out of Britain today. I'm sure you've been following this.
I know. It's long since coming. I mean, there was a reason Andy's nickname all of his life was Randy Andy. Mm-hmm. And being Randy means sexy.
Right, sure.
But I don't see anything sexy about this man. He's a disgrace to the country. I'm thrilled he's being arrested. And he'll probably go away for a long time once they figure out it's not just the sexual exploitation along with his friend Epstein, but it's also that I think he was a traitor to his country in other ways.
Right. Well, and that appears he was passing sensitive government documents having to do with trade agreements and negotiations, and he's passing them to Jeffrey Epstein, the sleazy billionaire, and and it looks like he is really in big trouble. And King Chuck, I call him Chuck, King Chuck. Have you ever met King Chuck? Prince Chuck? No,
the only member of the family that I ever actually met and love is Princess Anne. But wished she should have been. It was a big mistake to let Charles. I know he's waited a long time, but Elizabeth didn't abdicate for a very good reason. She had to have known that Charles was pretty much hopeless. So, I don't really wish this on William and Catherine, because I know they want to raise their family a bit longer, but, we need them. He should abdicate because he's been hiding. He knows what his brother was like. They've all known.
Right.
And that just doesn't bode well. And otherwise we could lose the monarchy, which would be extraordinarily sad.
Yeah, I heard that mentioned earlier today, as a matter of fact. And the Queen was great. She what an extraordinary life. And she apparently protected Randy Andy all the year because he was the favorite boy, which is easy to understand when you got Chuck over there, Prince Charles, and he's not a lot of fun. And he looks like a cartoon.
No.
He looks like a cartoon character too.
Yeah, I always used to tell people that, with his mother's money, you'd think she would have pinned his ears back with a little plastic surgery, and maybe that would have helped. But,
might have.
He's not up to it, and it really is time, and I have a feeling that might just happen.
Wow, collapse the entire monarchy, huh?
Not the entire monarchy, because I think they, putting William and Kate and their 3 lovely children would not only be a breath of fresh air, but England's got to change in a lot of ways. I mean, they've got to get rid of Karma, who's an absolute communist.
Yeah, the prime minister. Yeah, you're great.
But
you're wonderful.
I look back and I think England. It's certainly not the England I left.
Yeah. Well, and America is not the America you arrived in either.
Well, no, it isn't, but I continue to be an optimist. But when these problems come up with a SAFE Act and what have you, I hate problems that can't be solved. And a lot of these problems that go on in the world here are not that difficult to solve.
Right. You're right.
But I'm just delighted with Trump, because I've said for decades that politicians make lousy presidents. When people say, well, you can't run a country, like it's a business. And, oh, hell yes, you can. It makes sense.
Yeah.
They know how to fix problems.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm staying
you're
on
great.
too long.
You're a great American. You're wonderful, and thank you for calling in. And since you mentioned voting for Ronald Reagan, and we're talking about Prince Charles now, and then he's King Charles now, sir. And I met then Prince Charles, Crown Prince Charles, at Ronald Reagan's funeral at the Washington National Cathedral, where I had a nice conversation with Charles, and I told him all about the cathedral and the Canterbury pulpit and the Martin Luther King. I gave him some history on the cathedral. I know he's an architecture and a cathedral guy. So I filled him in on all that at Ronald Reagan's funeral, and he was perfectly nice and perfectly polite, although I think he had his minion executed after our conversation, because his minion was supposed to brief him on the ins and outs of the cathedral, and he failed. But it was a lot of fun meeting Chuck. I always call him Chuck, and at Ronald Reagan's funeral at the Washington National Cathedral, and I had a very nice conversation with him, even though he's a silly English Knigget. Silly English Knigget. See, you know a Knigget.
Yes,
you know,
and a few blemishes on his own record.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
At least he raised one decent son.
Yeah, one. Yeah, and Princess Diana, and that boy, what an episode! This, you don't need reality TV as long as you have the royal family.
Exactly, and I do want them to stick around.
Yeah, I think they're
Princess
good.
Anne can step in and walk William through everything. She can train him a lot better.
You'd like to see Charles can. Charles should abdicate. He should step down.
I do, and he likes his gardening, and I think that would be brilliant, and make his jam.
Brilliant, make his jam, gardening, very nice. Wonderful, wonderful, Suni. I'm very happy that you called in.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks, nice meeting you. That's Suni. She's calling from Wilmington, North Carolina. She used to be English, now she's American. See, that's you can't move to England and become English. Oh, I'm English now. No, you're not. You just live there, right? But you move to America, and you become American. It's the only country in the world. Can't move to Japan and become Japanese. That doesn't happen. They'll chop your head off. Let's see. Maybe they might chop your head off. So we've got a lot. We've got all that going on. Let me get back because I got to get to Ted Lieu, because Ted Lieu, this guy, so many things going on in the world. The last one I got is now sources are talking about the Chicago Bears leaving Chicago. What? The Bears leave Chicago? They're the Chicago Bears. An announcement is expected. Now, Abdul Hakim Shabazz is on the Twitter. An announcement is expected tomorrow in the House Ways and Means Committee that the Chicago Bears have agreed to relocate to Hammond, Indiana. No formal confirmation yet. I think they're going to move to Arlington Heights. I don't think they can move to Indiana. I don't think they want to do that. I think Abdul Hakim Shabazz might be wrong about this one. What do you think? I think so. All right, now, Ted Lieu. I've got to get to Ted Lieu because, but I don't have time right now. So I've got to take a break. And Democrat Congressman Ted Lieu, since Whoopi Goldberg explained, hey, anybody's name can be in there. When he heard Democrat Congressman Ted Lieu talking about the Epstein files and Donald Trump, you'll never guess what kind of outlandish, scurrilous accusations Congressman Ted Lieu is making. We think he might be a cannibal. He could be a cannibal. Ted Lieu, that's coming up. Yeah, if the Chicago Bears move to Hammond, Indiana, the rumor is they're going to change the name of the Bears to the Eggs. Then they'll be known as the Hammond Eggs. The Hammond Eggs. See, the Hammond Eggs. I don't think that's true. I think that's just a joke on the internet. Let's go to the telephones, and then I want to get to Ted Lieu accusing President Trump of all kinds of wild-eyed things. But they're all mentally ill, and they have sexual issues. Let's go to David, calling from Jamestown, Pennsylvania. David, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, David. Thank you.
I have some breaking news for you. I haven't heard you announce it.
Excellent.
the Democrats have attained God status.
They have.
Now walk on Yes, they can now walk on water, at least the Potomac.
At least the bada boom. See, there it is. A rim shot because they finally. Well, you may remember that Barack Obama, when he was running for president, he said if you elect him, that he would slow the rise of the oceans. Talk about God power.
This was the moment when the rise of the oceans began to slow and our planet began to heal. This was the moment.
See, David, that's godlike, isn't it? You can slow the rise of the oceans and the planet began to heal. Godlike. But you're right, now we can all, you don't want to, but you can walk across the Potomac River.
Yes, you can. And Barack Obama bought waterside property in Hawaii, so I don't think he believed what he was saying.
You don't think he believed what he was saying? I think you're right about that.
I think he was just saying it.
Here's the thing, David. In Hawaii, where he grew up smoking dope with the Choom Gang and all that stuff, he bought the house that was the house in the TV show Magnum P.I.
Right.
And he tore it down because he wanted a nice house, not that beautiful Italian villa that was good enough for Robin's Nest, but not good enough. And then, of course, he bought another $14 million waterfront mansion on Martha's Vineyard, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And we'll never forgive him for Hawaii.
Yeah, but for Hawaii, that's true. Yeah, I mean, that was supposed to be my house. Nobody knows that, but that was supposed to be my house, to move into the old Magnum P.I. mansion and to not tear it down. And he also built an illegal seawall around his. Maybe that's how he's slowing the rise of the oceans, by building an illegal seawall in Hawaii, which he did.
He's a Democrat.
He is a Democrat.
He can build anything he wants to.
He can does other people's money. Other people will build illegal aliens, and then he'll deport them all. It's different being a Democrat, isn't it, David?
Yeah. Thank you for what you do, sir.
Well, thanks, my friend. Thank you. Nice call. Fun. See, godlike powers. Now the Democrats, they've arranged it so we can all walk on water. At least they can. Of course, you're going to have to give your shoes a good scrubbing after you walk across the Potomac River. Going to need a good old scrubbing like Bill Clinton's Oval Office.